Thanks, Ryan. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Nets postgame show with Frank Isola. I'm Nancy Newman. The Nets, they were looking to keep a good thing going, take care of business tonight against the 15-win Houston Rockets. They did just that. Their win, 118-96. Several Nets with big games. The lineup, the rotations, it's all coming together.
Well, if you want to be a team that's going to be top 6 in your conference, you have to win games like tonight. I understand the Houston Rockets have a lot of young talent, but you look at the team that they are. They had lost 11 straight games, and they beat San Antonio, which isn't a good team. These are the kind of games you have to win. Nets got off to a slow start, down 11, but they did have a 34-point turnaround in this game. So you went from a 44-point turnaround against Boston to what they did tonight. And for the second straight game, and we talk about it all the time, I know tonight we're going to talk a lot about offense, second straight game where they hold the opponent to under 100 points. So it still begins and ends with the way you defend.
It does. And as you mentioned, that second quarter run, that was huge. That's what we're going to focus in on right now. Down by as many as 11 in the first quarter, down 8 here. Seth Curry connecting with Royce O'Neal. He sinks home the tray, and it's a 5-point game. Next up, it's O'Neal again.
Yeah, here's what Jacque Vaughn did. In that second quarter, the starters did not play well the first quarter. Second quarter, he's got Seth Curry running the point. He's got Joe Harris, who knocks down this three here. Royce O'Neal did really well. So Royce O'Neal and Joe Harris, the two guys that were starting before all the trades were made. And Seth Curry now, in this game, taking over for Cam Thomas, who did not play tonight, as the backup point guard. This was the group that got the Nets back in it. They made the extra pass. There were a couple of starters still in the game, like Nick Claxton and Cam Johnson hits down that corner three. But again, it really was the play of Royce O'Neal, who gets the tap, back out, and then Joe Harris, who took the original shot, knocks down the three. That group, which featured 3 bench players, Seth Curry running the point with Joe Harris and Royce O'Neal, they changed the game in that second quarter. It was a 16-0 run, a 21-2 run, and Houston, yes, did tie it up late in the first quarter. I'm sorry, the first half. Nets scored the final 5 points of the first half, and then they just blew them away in the second half. They never, by the way, last 22 minutes, the Nets had a double-digit lead in this game.
It's 3 wins in a row now. It's 3 games in a row, 3 consecutive wins now. And Joe Harris, as you said, I want to focus in on some of these bench players. It seems as though since the trade deadline, they know that, hey, this is our guys, this is our team now, and we've got to run with it.
Yeah, and I think Joe Harris, he's professional enough. It's a guy that has started. Same thing with Royce O'Neal. They know they're going to get playing time. You need to get in there and do something. I think you saw that tonight. But Joe Harris also seemed to be moving a lot better. You watched him against Milwaukee, even against the Knicks. There were a couple of those games didn't even play in the second half. I just thought his movement was a lot better the last couple of games, but especially tonight. And, he seems to be, if he knocks down that first shot, that really kind of gets him going. And even tonight, he took a couple of deeper shots. And if he's knocking them down, it just opens the floor up for everybody else. That was a terrific game by Joe Harris. And I got to give a lot of credit, too, to Spencer Dinwiddie, who I thought did really well in the first quarter, in the third quarter when they needed offense.
Right, and he got a nice rest in that fourth quarter. The Nets received contributions from a number of players tonight in Houston. Spencer Dinwiddie, Mikal Bridges, Nick Claxton propelling the starting 5. Claxton had a double-double with 18 points and 13 rebounds. Dinwiddie led the Nets with 13 points in the first quarter and finished with 23 points, while Bridges scored 18 of his 30 points in the second half. And we are going to focus in on Spencer Dinwiddie right now.
And I thought Spencer did a really good job knowing when he needed to shoot, because the Nets were struggling early on, and he seemed to be the only one that had anything going, that kind of wanted to be as aggressive as the Houston Rockets were. Remember, this was an 11-point deficit for the Brooklyn Nets in that first quarter. Spencer ended up with 13 points in the first quarter. Then in the third, he added 8. He finishes with 23. I thought he had a really good all-around game scoring when they needed him to score.
And Mikal Bridges, another 30-point night.
And, he had a big fourth quarter. Basically scored most of the points when the game was all but decided. But this is what big-time scorers are going to do. They're still going to find a way to get their points. I thought he's been very good. That stat that they had about how many 30-point games that he's had, 5 of the 8 games where he's had at least 30, really settling into being that kind of player. But this is the other thing he does. He had a couple of lob passes tonight into Nick Claxton. So if you're going to keep a defense off balance like that, when the double team comes and he's willing to pass it, and then how about the pass that he had off of the inbounds play? That was a great inbounds play by Jacque Vaughn, throwing the lob to Nick Claxton, who got fouled on the play. So Mikal Bridges not only scoring, but doing other things, including setting guys up, much like that's what the genius of Kevin Durant would be. when they would run extra defenders at him, Kevin Durant just wouldn't blindly shoot the ball with 2 guys on him. He would look for the open guy. Mikal Bridges was doing that tonight as well.
With 3 consecutive wins now, there has been a lot for Brooklyn to like over the last few games. We've got much more ahead on the postgame. And coming up, we will hear from the head coach, Jacques Vaughn. Stay with us. We are back. Final stats from the Nets and the Rockets, which are our keys to the game. The Nets shot over 49% from the field, made 15 three-pointers, and held the Rockets to under 27% beyond the arc. Following the victory, a very pleased Jacques Vaughn spoke with Megan and the media.
When you look at this one, the Rockets kind of set the tone early. What changed and what was important that allowed you guys to kind of get the stops and the shots that you wanted?
Yeah, really focus on, what the keys to the game were. We talked about before the game started was their ability to keep them out the paint. And so we made an adjustment as far as just shrinking the floor more, putting more bodies in front of the basketball. So that was huge on our defensive end of the floor. And then that allowed us to get out and run a little bit. So big job by the entire group of just really shrinking the floor and playing together on the defensive end.
There's so many players that I can mention for tonight. You had Spencer that led the charge.
Yeah.
You had Nick Claxton with the double-double, and then another great game by Mikal Bridges. When you have that overall depth like that, what stands out to you, especially when it comes to this group, that makes this team a lethal team?
Yeah, you saw really that second quarter was a big difference maker for us. That group, CJ, Seth was out there, Joe was out there. They really, shifted the momentum our direction, especially going into halftime. Their ability to get stops and get out in transition and create pace was huge. But a big part of that was the guys that were out there playing. So the depth definitely paid dividends tonight.
There were plays that Nick made tonight that they're not going to show up.
Yeah.
Obviously in the stat sheet. But I mean, him going down, getting the loose ball and coming coast to coast, him guarding a 2, guarding a 3. Just how much does it help to have a center that's that, for lack of a better term, unique? Yeah,
very unique, Brian. It's huge for our group. Just the way we want to play, I'll continue to use versatility. It just allows us to play different defenses. He's covering up, different plays for us, but the end of the floor, we start the second half with a play for him where he keeps the DHO and he goes and dunks the basketball. So not many centers are doing that in the league. And then on the other end, altering shots and being able to be in a position to guard multiple bodies. So unique. We love him, what he brings to the table. Continue to push him to grow and continue to push him to get better.
And you said you were going to get Noel some time. I probably thought 10 minutes. Was that, did you intend to play him that much, or was part of that Nick, he got a couple fouls early and you just said, well, let me ride with him and see what he has?
A little bit of both. In the back of my mind, I wanted to see where he was at. Obviously, didn't play Cam Thomas tonight because of that, so I didn't want to go too far into the rotation. So really just supplemented Nerlens for Cam, kept Dodo away from the 5 position tonight to see what that looks like. If we were still bigger and play Royce with Doe and another big at the same time. So gave me a chance to look at some things while also giving Nerlens some minutes.
Which leads me into the following question with Cam Thomas, not CJ. How does he fit now that you're deeper? You've added a body that presumably goes into your rotation. Where does that leave Cam? Yeah, he could easily play 30 minutes 2 nights from now. And so it doesn't change my ability to put him on the floor at any time of the game. I think tonight I wanted to see could Nerlens play in a basketball game and contribute and be able to pick up what we're doing as a group, alter shots, see his quickness, see if he can protect the rim. So I needed to see that tonight, and he is on the 10-day, so I decided to use one of those 10 days pretty quickly to see what he was going to give us. So tonight was the night.
Now that he's been with you for about a month, how have you seen Bridges kind of mesh with your team?
He is the ultimate competitor. I love that piece about him. He plays every single night. I love that piece about him. And that ability to contribute as a teammate, he is very unselfish. He gives of his time, of his knowledge, in the locker room, during the games. So it's really been a joy to be around him and learn him as an individual.
Well, Coach said he wanted to get a good look at Noel. That he did, nearly 18 minutes on the floor, just going with a 9-man rotation.
Yeah, so Cam Thomas tonight ends up being the odd man out. And the reason for that also is that 16-0 run in the second quarter, because that group was playing so well and getting it done on the defensive. And you knew that Cam Thomas wasn't going to play once you saw that group knocking down shots and also holding down the Houston Rockets. Houston Rockets only scored 64 points the last 3 quarters. So really what Jock Vaughn is telling you, and I think you'll see Cam Thomas, if not against Milwaukee, you'll see him the following night against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Tonight they didn't really need the offense. They got more than enough points, 118. What they needed was a defensive mindset, which Cam Thomas doesn't always bring. And I think tonight, once that group did really well, the game changed in that second quarter with the 3 backups that he put in there. And once they were successful, that was going to be the rotation the Jock Vaughn was going to stick with.
And watching Houston, just a 15-win team, there's talent there, but they're clearly undisciplined.
No, it's all over the place. I feel badly for Steven Silas because, fans love it. Oh, young players, young players. Just because you have young players, it doesn't mean that necessarily they're all going to get better at the same time. So it's a rough situation there. The stat that they had during the broadcast was pretty amazing. Could become the first team in NBA history to finish with the worst record 3 straight years. So what does that tell you about always getting a high pick in the draft? Doesn't always mean that you're going to win. And another thing, so tonight they lost. They hit 50. They lost their 50th game tonight, the Houston Rockets.
Wow. Time for another break on the post game. Stay with us. We've got full game highlights on the way, along with more reaction from Houston. Stay with us on Yes. For coming back with us on the post-game show. With a challenging schedule ahead, well, the Nets did what they needed to do on Tuesday, coming away with a 118-96 victory over the Rockets. Let's take a look at the full game highlights from the start of a 5-game road trip. Early going, Cam Johnson the steal, bad pass by Dorian Finney-Smith, turning the ball back over to the Rockets, and Jalen Green capitalizing, driving to the net. It's no good, but St. June right there to tip it back home. It's a 10-point early lead. Yeah,
it was 12-2 Houston early on. Nets really slow getting out of the block, but Spencer Dinwiddie was kind of the guy that kept it in it. But Sengun early on was overpowering the Brooklyn Nets around the basket. There leads to a turnover, though, and finally the Brooklyn Nets start to get some offense.
A 6-point deficit and climbing. Later in the quarter, Spencer Dinwiddie handling, driving, little floater. That's good. Plus the foul. Dinwiddie, those 13 points in the first quarter, keeping the Nets afloat. Final seconds in the first frame. Green driving to the net. Plus the foul for him at the end of 1. Rockets up 32-27 after the free throw. Second quarter, Nets down 3. Seth Curry. Nice to see him have a fine night.
Yeah, this was the pivotal 16-0 run with 3 backups on the court. Ended up being a 21-2 run for the Brooklyn Nets.
More of this run. Harris, no good. Nets pick up the rebound. Johnson, Harris, this time, yes.
And it all starts with Royce O'Neal getting his hand on a loose ball, knocking out to Cam Johnson. The ball ends up back in the hands of Joe Harris, who knocks down the 3.
At the other end, Green with the ball, waiting and pulling up and hitting. Rockets down 4. Seconds left. Cam Johnson over to Bridges. Firing from long range.
Yeah, so the game was tied at 54. The Nets scored the final 5 points of the first half, including that Bridges 3 to beat the buzzer. The game was never tied again.
Big shot to end the half. Third quarter, Bridges finding Nick Claxton. What a game, driving in for the slam. Nets lead 62-54. And again, it's going to be Bridges to Claxton. Alley-ooping it up.
And that's off of an inbounds pass. If you're the Houston Rockets, you can't do that, but that's a great play by Bridges. By the way, Mikal Bridges tonight leads him in scoring, also had a team-high 5 assists.
And a little thievery. Claxton, the steal. All the way to the net and the deuce. 9 points in the third quarter for Nick Claxton. Time winding down in that third. Green driving hard. That's a finish.
I'll tell you what, Jalen Green's a talented player. For me, that should be a technical foul for taunting, but he has ability. There's no question about that.
Still down 14 was Houston. Fourth quarter now. Bridges with the rock. Pull up 3. Yes. Nets up 99-81. Moments later, the steal by O'Neal. And the Nets are off in transition. Bridges finds Nick Claxton again for the alley-oop slam.
And
Smiles.
The Houston Rockets, by now, they weren't even running back on defense. This thing, what a mess they are. Constantly losing. As Bridges gets to his 30 points, a little corner three, nails it.
And you said O'Neal was also key tonight. A double-double for him. 118-96 was the final. The game summary brought to you by Infiniti. Spencer Dinwiddie scored over 20 points for a second straight game, while Mikal Bridges tallied 30 points for the 5th time in his 10 games with Brooklyn. A major difference in the victory was the ability of the Nets to limit the Rockets from three-point range. And speaking of Royce O'Neal, here he is post-game with Megan and the media.
Royce, describe to me what changed for this group, particularly in that second quarter. Jock told us the bench is kind of what really got things going.
Yeah, I mean, you know, as a bench coming off, we just wanted to bring a lot of energy, especially on the defensive end, help each other out. And, you know, that led us to easy fast break points, and, you know, we executed and, you know, built a lead from there.
And not just the fast break points, but the three-point shots. They weren't falling there in the first quarter. What allowed you guys to get the looks that you guys wanted to help them start falling?
I think just everybody's space, you know, in the right place, driving the ball, you know, collapsing, kicking it out for open guys. I mean, everybody being unselfish, you know, making one more passes to whoever's open, and then, you know, shooting the ball.
What tactical changes did you guys make to keep them away from the basketball?
Just collapse. You know, they wanted to drive the ball, attack the basket, so we wanted to make that tough for them and just clog the paint up, and that's what we did.
Nick told us that this is something that he was trying to get back to playing his normal game, but when you see him go off for another double night, you told me that's what he does, but what do you just make of his game overall as you see it continuously grow game by game?
I think he's just adapting and learning. I mean, you know, he was having his little slow start. He was a little nervous about it, but, you know, tell him, you know, stick with it, stay the course. It'll all work out. And I think just him, you know, being poised, taking each game, you know, differently, mentally, staying ready, and, you know, impacting the game in each and every way.
When you see a center make some of the plays that he makes, I mean, he goes down low, getting loose balls, going coast to coast, body control, just how unique is that for a five-man to be able to kind of make plays like that?
It's really unique. I mean, he works on it every day. I mean, we trust him to make plays. I mean, he's going to be the guy that, you know, sometimes he's going to have the ball. They might sag off him and, you know, deny everybody else that he has to make a play. And I think just him being confident in himself and making those plays, making the right reads, whether he's scoring or passing.
You know, Jock told us that he wanted this group to set the tone early as this road trip does start. What do you take from not just this game, the last couple of games? That's going to be important as you got a tough opponent coming up.
I think our defense, you know, we locking into the game plan, sharing the ball. I mean, you never know who's like going to get hot, or, you know, everybody's playing the right way. So I think, you know, that defense, that's our trying to build that identity, and, you know, going forward, just build on it.
The Nets will try to keep the momentum going in their second game of a 5-game road trip Thursday night in Milwaukee. From the worst to the best. But we've still got more to come tonight as we continue to recap the win over the Rockets. Stay with us on the post-game show. Turning back to basketball now with a look at Joe Harris, who continued his sharp three-point shooting, 4 threes, 12 points off the bench, Frank.
Yeah, and I really thought he was effective, especially in that second quarter. He played 23 minutes, was a plus 18 in the game. That's what you want to see from Joe Harris, coming in and making immediate impact. And the way that he's going to do it is just like that, knocking down open shots. There he is from the corner. Good look by Spencer Dinwiddie, and Joe Harris nails it from the corner.
In addition to Harris's strong play off the bench, both Seth Curry and Royce O'Neal made their presence felt as well. Curry, 12 points in 21 minutes. O'Neal, the double-double with 11 points and 11 rebounds in 32 minutes. Following the game, Harris spoke with Megan and the media about another big-time performance.
Joe, Jock told us that you were part of the group that shifted the momentum for this group in that second quarter. How were you guys able to do it, and what was the key?
I think defensively, we were just able to get stops. Everybody was really locked into the game plan, knowing the personnel. got some stops. We were able to get out and run, and then that group, the ball was really moving. Shot a lot of threes. Fortunate to knock some down, but I think a lot of it started with the defense.
You said that you shot a lot of threes and fortunate to knock them down. They weren't falling in that first quarter. How do the stops that helped you guys to kind of gain that momentum and then, make them start falling?
Well, I think it's exactly that. I mean, basketball, especially the NBA, is all it's a game of momentum. As soon as you start to get the little bit of energy on your side, it translates, both sides. So, if you're able to get stops in particular, it definitely translates to the offensive end.
What did you guys do defensively in terms of changing schemes to keep them from getting to the rim like they were in that first quarter?
It's just overemphasis in packing the paint, limiting their drives. They're a really good transition team, heavy drive team, really good offensive rebounding team. The whole game plan was trying to make them beat us over the top. Really just tried to pack the paint and limit, driving opportunities for them.
Another 30-point night for Mikal Bridges. What do you just make and what do you see when Mikal Bridges is out there on the court and how he's been able to be so successful as for your group?
Mikal is, they don't use this term for basketball, but he's, I guess, the equivalent of like a five-tool type basketball player where he does just a little bit of everything. Offensively, he can definitely carry the load for us, but he always makes the right play, though, too. If he's, not getting the bucket for himself, he's making a play for somebody else.
Time for another break on the post-game show. We've got more to come from Houston. Stay with us on Yes. Welcome you back on the post-game show. Time now for some out-of-town highlights, and we start with the Nets' previous opponent, the Hornets, who were still in New York taking on the Knicks at the Garden. Let's take a look at those highlights. Right to the fourth quarter, Kelly Oubre Jr. to the basket for the slam. Charlotte down 7, but hold on, moments later, Charlotte making it close. Terry Rozier, Oubre Jr. for 3, an 11-zip Charlotte run, Frank.
Yeah, at some point, the Knicks, you thought that were going to turn into a pumpkin. You didn't think it was going to happen against the Charlotte Hornets. So riding a 9-game winning streak to a Charlotte team which was not sharp the other night against the Brooklyn Nets.
103-100. Hornets after the free throw. Knicks down 2. Julius Randle. The deuce tied at 103. Soon after, Oubre Jr. an answer in the corner. Staying hot from beyond the arc. The Hornets lead back up by 5.
And that's a good contest by Emmanuel Quickly. Remember, no Jalen Brunson here. Quickly goes to the lane, tries to draw the foul. Julius Randle has the follow-up that they call an offensive foul there. It ends up being Charlotte ball. Knicks end up losing.
112-105 final count. Next up, Minnesota. Sixers, Timberwolves. First quarter, 22-all. Anthony Edwards, yes. T-Wolves up early. Into the second quarter, game tied at 43.
Here's that Anthony Edwards move again, and he is so good. Plays all the time. That's what you love about Anthony Edwards. Durable, likes to be out there, and has been really good this season.
Sixers lead by 2. On we go. Seconds left in the half. Embiid, little step back.
And that's against Rudy Gobert. Embiid has just been putting up some huge numbers on this road trip. How about that little spin move right there? Had 39 points through 3 quarters in this game.
Fourth, Tyrese Maxey, tough layup. He had 27 on the night. And Philly, a winner again. They go on to take this one 117-94. The T-Wolves had won 3 in a row. Bucks Magic, second quarter here. Bol, Franz Wagner. The dunk. 39-37. Moments later, 47-all. Chris Middleton throwing it up to Brook Lopez.
And a good night for Chris Middleton. He actually started in this game, ended up having 24 points. Here he is on the little runner. If they're going to be a championship team, they need Chris Middleton to be healthy and to play well.
Midway through the fourth, Joe Ingles, he's connecting with Lopez. Bucks go on to win again, 134-123. They're now 47-18. Following tonight's win, the Nets' road trip rolls on as they head to Milwaukee on Thursday for a big matchup with Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Bucks. And we will have it for you right here on Yes. Milwaukee remained atop the Eastern Conference and sits 2.5 games ahead of the Boston Celtics. Coverage Thursday night begins at 7:30. Tip-off shortly after 8 o'clock on Yes and the Yes app. Cannot wait for this one. And as we mentioned earlier, from the worst to the best, Giannis and the Bucks.
Yeah, and Giannis did not play tonight. Neither did Drew Holiday. And look at all the points the Milwaukee Bucks put up. So they'll be available on Thursday. Remember, when they came to Brooklyn, Giannis had a big game, but really the turning point of that game was when Giannis got his 4th foul with about 5 minutes to go in the 3rd quarter. Milwaukee, with Giannis on the bench, went on an 18-7 run. So this is a complete team. Plus, you know, the last time they played at home, they gave up 48 points to the Philadelphia 76ers, so they'll be ready to play. Giannis and Drew Holiday sat out tonight. This was the 3rd game in 4 nights for the Milwaukee Bucks, so Mike Budenholzer wanted to get those guys rest. That's not going to be great to the people down in Orlando who buy tickets to see Giannis play, and unfortunately for the Nets, he'll be well rested for Thursday's game.
And for the Nets, it's the first game of a back-to-back. The next night, they're in Minnesota, so you wonder how much that'll affect Jacque Vaughn's rotation.
Oh, well, the way you have to coach it, you have to try to win that first game. You can't worry about Friday night, and that's what Jacque Vaughn will do. He'll worry about Friday night when it rolls around, but if that game's close, he's not going to start thinking about minutes. You can't coach like that because eventually it'll blow up in your face.
Milwaukee next. Time for another break on the postgame show. Stay with us. Up next, we'll turn the focus back to the Nets, who began their 5-game road trip with a 22-point win over the Rockets. After tonight, the Nets will continue their 5-game road trip with stops in Milwaukee, Minnesota, Denver, and Oklahoma City. The next 3 teams that Brooklyn will play are all above 500, which will present a challenging test for this new-look squad carrying a 3-game winning streak. And of note, this 3-game win streak, all wins have come by double digits for the first time this season. Yeah, and really the impressive one was the way they came back against the Boston Celtics. They had to win tonight against a Houston Rocket team that just simply isn't good enough. But you look at that schedule, you get a 2-time MVP in Giannis, then you get Minnesota on a back-to-back, which will not be easy. Then you get a 2-time MVP in Nikola Jokic, and then you end the trip against Oklahoma City, which right now is taking care of business against the Golden State Warriors. So this is going to be the toughest stretch right now for the Brooklyn Nets this season. They are not home until the 16th, and that's home to Sacramento. So, yep, telling stretch. Yep. That does it for the postgame show. Once again, our final score from Houston. Nets win it 118 to the Rockets 96. Now for Frank Isola and our entire awesome Yes Network team, I'm Nancy Newman. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget about Yankees spring training coverage on Yes at 1 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon. We'll see you again for Nets basketball on Thursday. Good night, everybody.